Coming up on Mountain News at 5:30, President Biden holds an emotional call with several wrongfully detained Americans after they were freed from Iran. Plus, what officials say most likely caused a large mulch fire during the weekend in central Kentucky.
And we are tracking mainly dry and warmer weather, all thanks to high pressure. Those details on the way as Mountain News at 5:30 starts now.
Dedicated to southern and eastern Kentucky, this is WYMT Mountain News at 5:30.
Good evening, I'm Olivia Calfee. Several wrongfully detained Americans are on their way back to the U.S. following a high-stakes diplomatic exchange between the Biden administration and Iran that included a multi-billion-dollar deal. CBS News' Skylar Henry is at the White House with the details as critics express their concerns regarding the swap.
President Biden spoke on the phone with the 5 Americans who were freed from an Iranian prison after they arrived in Doha, Qatar Monday. Imad Shargi, Siamak Namazi, Norad Tabaz, and 2 others who have chosen to remain anonymous were let go, along with 2 more people who were prevented from leaving Iran. They're all headed for Washington, D.C., soon to reunite with family.
These Americans are now free after having endured something that I think most of us can't possibly imagine.
The Biden administration agreed to a deal in August, clearing $6 billion in frozen Iranian oil funds and transferring the money from South Korea to Switzerland and then to a bank in Qatar. Officials insist there are guardrails on how the money can be used and won't be accessible to support terrorism or Iran's nuclear program.
President Biden's also been very clear that one way or another he's committed to ensuring that Iran never acquire a nuclear weapon.
Though the Biden administration reiterated that the money will be severely restricted, some lawmakers on Capitol Hill say they're concerned that any financial relief will incentivize future hostage-taking.
$6 billion of released funds will only make it far more expensive for every single American who's traveling abroad. It's a bad decision, although we do thank God that those folks are coming home.
In addition to the funds, President Biden also granted clemency to 5 Iranians who were facing charges in the U.S. for nonviolent crimes. 2 who have legal status in America have chosen to stay in the country. Skylar Henry, CBS News, the White House.
The White House says President Biden held an emotional call with the American citizens who are returning home. Each of the family members who joined the call spoke with the president. Hunter Biden is suing the Internal Revenue Service. The president's son says the IRS unlawfully disclosed his tax return information and agents failed to protect his private records. The lawsuit centers around disclosures made by 2 agents and their lawyers in public statements, congressional testimony, and interviews. Biden is seeking all documents involved, $1,000 for each unauthorized disclosure, and attorney's fees. Volodymyr Zelensky will be in Washington later this week to meet with his American counterpart and top lawmakers. Congress will discuss President Biden's request of about $21 million to help Ukraine in their war efforts against Russia. Zelensky says his country is grateful for all the support so far, but reminds the world Russia is not just Ukraine's problem. Ukrainian forces regained control of 2 villages in the eastern part of Ukraine during the weekend. A potential government shutdown is getting closer by the minute. There is less than 2 weeks for Capitol Hill to try and prevent the government from going broke and being forced to close its doors. 6 Republican members of the House, 3 from the House Freedom Caucus and 3 from the Main Street Caucus, closed a deal yesterday on a short-term spending plan they hope will prevent a shutdown. But will the rest of the GOP conference give it the nod?
It's a good thing I love a challenge. Every day is going to be a challenge. We've got a long week. We're not September 30th yet, but the one thing I'll tell everybody, I've never seen anybody win a shutdown. You only put the power in the hands of the administration.
If House Republicans approve the bill, it will likely be squashed by the Democratic-led Senate, meaning Congress would not be closer to preventing a potential shutdown. The United Auto Workers strike against the big three U.S. car manufacturers has now entered a fourth day. There was some progress during the weekend, but the companies still have not matched a UAW's demand for a 20% wage increase, among other things. The UAW says the walkout could expand this week as negotiations continue. Ford is now blaming 600 new layoffs on the strike. CBS's Chris Van Cleve has more.
It is a fight to take on corporate greed.
A weekend of Democratic heavy hitters rallying striking auto workers.
No justice, no peace.
Nearly 13,000 in Michigan, Missouri, and Ohio walked off the job Friday, halting production of popular SUVs like the Ford Bronco and Jeep Wrangler.
Our members are fed up.
United Auto Workers President Shawn Fain says some progress was made when talks resumed with Ford and General Motors this weekend.
We have a lot of work to do. When it comes to wages, when it comes to retirement security.
Do you feel like you're finding some places of agreement?
We're finding common ground on some things, but we still have ways to go.
The union is currently seeking at least a 36% raise, cost of living and job protections, as well as an unwinding of concessions made during the Great Recession when the companies created a tiered paid scale, starting some employees at under $17 an hour, while others make nearly double for the same work.
The way they're treating the new hires coming in just isn't right.
The union rejected automakers' offers centered around a 20% raise. GM CEO Mary Barra on CBS Mornings Friday.
We're at the table now, ready to keep going and get this resolved as quickly as possible.
At Tony M's in Lansing, Michigan, auto workers account for up to 40% of the restaurant's business. Owner Tamara Farrell worries without a deal, the strike could expand to the auto plant literally down the street.
It's going to be tight, and I think it'll affect my employees first. We'll have to cut back on hours so everybody can make it.
A lot of people holding their breath. Now, the workers that have walked off the job, they receive $500 a week in strike pay. And while they are targeting plants that make popular trucks and SUVs, experts say because of existing inventory, it will be several weeks before consumers see any impact on dealer lots. Chris Van Cleve, CBS News, Wayne, Michigan.
Talks are set to resume this week between the Writers Guild of America and the Alliance of Motion Picture and Television Producers. WGA sent a message to members today confirming the meeting. The last time the two groups met was last month. Members of the WGA have been on strike for 140 days. They are asking for better wages among a number of other demands. So far, the two sides have made progress on artificial intelligence regulations.
Well, for most of the region, we are starting the work week on a dry note, but we are tracking a few darker clouds and a few spotty showers in Pike County at this hour. Here's a live look in downtown Pikeville from the Pikeville Medical Center. That current temperature is 70 degrees, but you can see those dark clouds back in the distance and up on the radar. Again, most of us are quiet right now, but zooming into Pike County, we are watching out for a new shower not too far away from downtown and giving you the first alert in downtown Pikeville for a few showers not too far away over the next few minutes. Those temperatures very comfortable out there to kick off the work week. Most of us in the 70s right now. 72 for Jackson, also Hazard, 70 in Pikeville, 69 for Clintwood, and down to 63 in Wise. So it feels more like the end of fall than the end of summer, as summer is set to end later on this week. As we go into this evening, watching out for maybe a stray shower, especially early in the Big Sandy. Most of us are quiet though into tonight under a mainly clear sky, and those lows back in the lower 50s as you wake up on Tuesday. Possibly though some upper 40s in those cooler pockets, but we are trending warmer later on this week. All those details coming up in just a few minutes. Olivia?
Cameron, thank you. People in parts of Fayette County in central Kentucky are looking for answers after a fire broke out at the Haley Pike waste facility during the weekend. Neighbors complained about both the smoke and smell. Alexa Minton spoke with local fire officials about the cause and source of the fire and why it took so long to put out.
Over the weekend, a massive fire broke out just off I-64 at the Haley Pike waste facility. It grabbed the community's attention thanks to a large plume of smoke that began to drift over Fayette and Clark counties. While the fire was caused due to waste, it wasn't what you think.
It's still under investigation, but they believe it was spontaneous combustion. Anytime you have mulch and muck and stuff like that, if you If it gathers into like a few inches or more, if you store it that way, it will generate heat. And over time, it will spontaneously combust.
Mulch fires are a fairly common phenomenon, with Major Miracle saying they make around 100 calls, if not more, in Fayette County per year. The waste treatment facility that caught fire this past weekend was one of the debris drop-off locations from this summer's severe weather damage, allowing the site to accumulate substantial amounts of hay, manure, and branches, and setting it up to be a potential fire risk that culminated in this weekend's damage.
Currently, we have conditions that are just right for that. It's been pretty dry, windy conditions, so unfortunately, it was just perfect storm, as they say, for this to occur.
Major Miracle said that well over 100,000 gallons of water were used to put out the fire, and 6 different stations were called in to assist and bring their water tanks.
It doesn't hurt to occasionally go out when you water the yard, just throw a little water on the mulch, and just be careful, rake it, and just check it, you know, stuff like that.
In Fayette County, Alexa Minton, WKYT.
The Lexington Fayette Fire Department also wants to remind people to never put out a cigarette on or near mulch, as that could result in a fire as well. Coming up on Mountain News at 5:30, your credit score matters. A low score can lead to higher interest rates and fewer loan options. How you can raise your score by 100 points in just a year.
Plus, we could see some lows back in the upper 40s by tomorrow morning, tracking some fall-like air after this break.